Eu gostaria de pedir que o prefeito e você também permaneça.
I would like you to stay here together with Felipe as well. Please, you should be able to say it and ask the vice mayor to be here at the plenary, because now we're going to have a follow-up, which is the official opening of our Urban 20. So we'd like to ask you to come to stage the Ambassador Antonio da Costa, and he's a chief of the International Sister, and Austin from the Vice Director, and also Mariana Antonini. So he Shepherd U20. He is a General Coordinator of Foreign Relations of the City of Rio de Janeiro, is representative of the Mayor Eduardo Paes in this ceremony. So we're gonna start off our official opening. So we're gonna hear the words from the representatives of the co-organizer institutions, C40 cities, and now we're gonna hear from Emilia Saiz. She's the general director of the GLU.
Hi again. You've been hearing a lot from me today. Hope you don't get bored. I have some new things to tell, okay? Now, so first of all, I cannot stress enough how important it is for us, the co-conveners, C40 and United Cities and Local Governments, to be here and to go through this intensive period of discussions and negotiations with such inspiring cities in the whole of Brazil, for sure, but in particular, São Paulo and Rio de Janeiro. They both are a testament to the belief that working together brings us further than working alone. They are also a testament to international cooperation, openness to international affairs, and so very, very relevant members of our organizations and reference cities around the world. So when you work with such cities in processes like Urban 20, you know there is a guarantee of people listening. And we have been extremely lucky with the previous editions of Urban 20, iconic cities like Ahmedabad, like Jakarta, Tokyo, Buenos Aires, Riyadh, guiding us through there. But I have to emphasize how attached with reality and with the needs of the Global South this period is. At the very critical moment of humanity that we have been discussing today, not easy. There was a mayor in the previous plenary that was saying we need to call the poets to come and help us. I do think that poetry is needed to bring about the type of transformation that we need. And one very simple message from the greatest multilateralists of all, which I think are mayors around the world. The model as we know it is not really working. We are not sitting at the table the people that we need to have at the table. We are not saying we need to be the only ones at the table, but certainly there needs to be a bigger space of influence. And that is exactly what Urban 20 is trying to do. Open up that space for discussion, direct inputs to the G20 discussions, showing what we are doing already and what we think we would be able to do if different type of investment, if different type of dialogue was structural with the cities around the world. One important thing, and I will finish with this, to realize is that Urban 20 is the hopes and dreams not only of the big capital cities of the world, but also of the system of cities of the planet, recognizing intermediary cities and small cities as well. Because people are more creative in those environments, and we do feel that many of the solutions that we can find, yes, for climate change, but also for social justice, are to be found and fought for in cities, with our communities, their expectations, and their dreams at the forefront of whatever we decide. So that's why we're here. Thank you again, Mayor. Thank you to all the networks of cities here in Brazil. Thank you to the Brazilian government as well for a very intensive dialogue with us. But São Paulo, we all are São Paulo today. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Mistress Emilia, for your words. Now we're going to hear from Kevin Austin from the C40.
And thank you, Emilia, for those wise words. And it's a real honour to be here with you today at the 7th U20 Mayors Summit in Sao Paulo. And it's great to see so many global mayors and city leaders at this really important moment in the cycle. And today, U20 is really unique. We have 2 excellent co-chairs and we have 2 summits. And I want to begin by thanking Mayor Nunes, our host, for welcoming us to Sao Paulo. And he's shown great leadership in urban climate action. When I was in Sao Paulo just last October, Mayor Nunes told me about his ambitious plans to expand the city's public parks. And just 6 months later, I am back, and it's already happened. We have 11% of the city's private green areas are permanently preserved as a public park. And to help understand the importance of this action, it's equivalent to the size of the whole of the city of Paris. And this shows that mayors don't just deliver action, they deliver it at scale, and they deliver it quickly. And that's what we've got to do if we're going to address the urgent climate challenges that we all face. And as Emilia said, it's a broad church. It's fantastic to have the representatives of the U20 here, but we're in such great company with the colleagues attending the ICLEI World Congress and the Metropolis Board of Directors meetings here this week in Brazil. And of course, Brazil has special significance. It's going to play a crucial role in the multilateral space over the next 2 years. As president of this year's G20, and next year's COP30, your country is at the forefront of 2 global milestones, which will bring together national leaders, representatives of international institutions, and many other stakeholders that will have a say in the future of our planet. And if we are to succeed in addressing the climate crisis, we need to work in partnership with national governments. By working together, we can go further in ambition, we can go faster in implementation, and do so in a way that is fair and just. And Brazil is leading the way in these efforts with the historic Green and Resilient Cities programme as a leading example of multi-level partnerships on climate action. Now with U20, our focus this year is on social inclusion, sustainable development, and reform of the global governance institutions. And we're honoured as cities to propose to the G20 critical solutions to turn these commitments into implementation programmes. And these programmes must be backed by reform of the multilateral development system that delivers fit-for-purpose climate finance directly to cities, as we have heard all through the last day. So our collective message to the G20 is clear. Cities stand ready to work together with national governments. Thank you for all joining us today. I look forward to continuing our fruitful discussions tomorrow. And Mayor Nunes, thank you for having us.
Nós agradecemos aos nossos parceiros por suas falas e boas-vindas. E agora nós vamos passar a palavra
We would like to pass the floor to Mr. Felipe Reis, Sushepa from the Brazilian presidents of G20, and he's also the general coordinator at Itamaraty.
Thank you very much. I'm going to change the perspective a bit. Beyond the three priorities and the presidency of the G20 in the last section, fight against hunger, poverty, energy transition and sustainable development, and the reform of international governance, and the other concern that is also very important during the presidency of the G20 was related to the government and the exchange of the articulation with civil society, and was a main concern. And that was really important during our presidency. And for the first time, we're going to have an opportunity so that the engagement groups can interact with the Sherpas of the G20. That will happen today at the beginning of July, the meeting of Sherpas. And Sherpas are basically the CEOs, right, of the G20. After the leaders, that's the highest instance. And during this meeting in July of the Sherpas, and on 4th of July in the afternoon, there will be a moment for the engagements groups to talk and to make recommendations, make suggestions directly to the Sherpas. And once these messages are conveyed, there will be an interaction between the representatives of the groups of engagement and the Sherpas. This dialogue is very relevant. It didn't happen in the last it is now something new, and it's happening this July because of a very important reason. The engagement of the contributions for the engagement groups, this will happen so that their contributions will help in the drafting of the different work groups and in the leader declaration of the G20. If we had this contribution in October, that wouldn't be very productive, because the statements would all be ready and the minutes would be finished, and the interaction wouldn't have the same effect. So the option was to bring forward the meeting with the Sherpas, and so that the cities will have their contributions incorporated in the ministry statements and all the other documents. Something else that we have in the Brazilian presidency, and it is related to the interaction between government and society at a broad sense, is the holding of the G20 at the end of the year, the social G20 at the end of the year. And these are the leaders, so this is the official segment of the G20, and the social G20 will happen on the 13th and 14th of November in Rio. And this will be a stage for the engagement groups and for other segments of civil society to show their opinions on the international topics of the international agenda, considering also, especially starting with hunger and social injustice. This is the first time that the social G20 will take place, and it is an evolution, and this really represents an evolution in the part of interaction between government and society, because governments do not exist in the vacuum. They need civil society and other authorities as well. And without their contribution, we won't be able to solve the problem. So basically, that's the message that we wanted to give you, the concern with interaction and this partnership between the G20 and the government, and will be further for our interest. Thank you very much.
Nós agradecemos as palavras.
We thank you for your words, Felipe, and now we'll hear the Ambassador Antonio da Costa, head of the Internationally Advisory of the Ministry of the Cities.
Boa tarde a todas e todas, senhor prefeito.
And to everyone, Mr. Mayor, thank you very much for this invitation. And I greet everyone here in the presence and in the table. And due to the work of Minister Jade Filho, who I represent here today, concerning cities, the ministry has many different sentences that he usually likes, and he says that the people who live in the city of the people don't live in the state of in this country of Brazil. It's actually in the city. People live in cities basically. So we have an 80 population of 80% that is urban. And these territories are the cities are the place to fight hunger, to fight social inequality, and to strive for all of the SDGs in a very cross-cutting way. It's within the urban perimeter that inequality, especially what is very present here in Brazil, it's within cities that we have to fight this fight. And when Minister asked me to work with the international agenda, and Emilia knows it very well, he gave me two messages. First, the need of effectively empowering cities in international discussions, especially in the ones that are in charge of, under the care of the Ministry of Cities. Hence, his effort to work towards the SDGs, and now after the establishing again of the Commission of the SDGs by President Lula, the Ministry of the Cities, in partnership with other agencies of the government and civil society, wanted to create a theme chamber of localization concerning the SDGs. It's also important for us to work with the electoral issues so that we can look at the candidates of mayors and town hall members or council members to look at this from the perspective that we have here. I'd like also to mention the program Green Cities and Resilient Cities. That's a partnership that was established between the Ministry of the Environment and Science and Technology and the Ministry of Cities. It has a core element that it is a platform. That was the initiative of the Ministry Jade Filhos to endorse the COP SHAMP, the platform SHAMP. And we do recognize the need to work in a local level with the engagement of the subnational governments, the weather agenda, the climate agenda, mitigation and adaptation. The tragedy that befell upon the Rio Grande do Sul state shows the degree of challenge that we have in our urban territories and the resilience and the priorities of. Finally, my accent gives me away that I'm a proud carioca, even when I come to São Paulo, a carioca from Rio, right? And I'd like to mention the joy of two cities that are leading the U20, the municipalities of Rio and São Paulo. They're two huge cities and national references that give a very important example on how to approach the climate crisis and social situations to work. The development of cities, sustainable development, metropolitan development in cities with such a big, huge scope due to the size and to its outskirts and poor neighborhoods. And this is the last aspect I'd like to highlight here. The Ministry of Cities created this
no atual governo Lula, no
In
terceiro
the
mandato,
government of Lula, in the third
uma
term
Secretaria
of
Nacional de Periferia.
government Lula,
Além da sua
the
Secretaria de
National
Cidade,
Secretary
Habitação,
of
Mobilidade Urbana,
Outskirts or poor neighborhoods in the outside of the city. So this secretariat looks at the marginal territories of our cities, the ones that are at the border of the cities. This is our big challenge. The challenge is to not only to find budgeting or funding for our big cities, but also to deal with urban inequality, and that will manage to make our cities more inclusive, less unequal, to be effectively spaces for building citizenship and not spaces for exclusion. That is a challenge that is something that U20 has to deal with also. I was listening to the other session at the back of the room, and I realized that this is a challenge for us to make the urban spaces places for constructing or building citizenship. Thank you very much.
Agradecemos as palavras do embaixador.
We thank the words of the ambassadors, and now we're going to watch the video of the city of Rio that is personally represented here by Mr. Antonio Mariano, the General Coordinator of International Relations of the state of Rio.
Cities are humanity's greatest invention, the most transformative creation defining our ways of life. They are the most visible mark we leave on the planet. More than a half of the world's population already lives in cities, and by 2050, we will be 2/3 of humanity. Cities are especially affected by inequalities and climate change. But it is in cities that technologies develop, cultures flourish, and major decisions affecting the planet are made. Building a more just world and a sustainable planet therefore relies on public policies implemented by cities. São Paulo, the most populous city in the Americas, the largest financial center in Latin America. Rio de Janeiro, the city with two of the largest urban forests in the world, host of the first United Nations Climate Conference, the Postcard of Brazil. Together, they have more than 20 million inhabitants and the two largest GDPs in Brazil. São Paulo and Rio de Janeiro are the major economic and cultural hubs of Brazil and co-chairs of the Urban 20 in 2024. Global cities built by people from all over the world. This year bring the urban perspective and a vision from the Global South to the G20. In this U20 cycle, ensuring effective dialogue for cities' access to sustainable finance and people-centered governance are our priorities. For the first time, a U20 summit will take place on the eve of the Summit of the Heads of States. Local and national leaders will be gathered in the same city, elevating urban issues on the global agenda. In November, the world meets in Rio. We are waiting for you with open arms.
Assistiremos mais vídeo.
We'll watch another video this moment now to listen to the words of the co-president of Urban 20 and mayor of the city of Rio de Janeiro.
Prefeito da grande cidade de São Paulo, Ricardo Nunes, prezada secretária-geral da CGLU, Emília Saiz, prezado vice-diretor executivo do C40, o nosso Kevin Austin, caros prefeitos e prefeitas, todos os presentes aí recebam as minhas calorosas saudações em nome da cidade do Rio e sejam bem-vindos à primeira cúpula de prefeitos do ciclo de 2024 do 20. Nos últimos meses, a gente esteve trabalhando com afinco para identificar os pontos mais relevantes para nós, cidades, na composição desse comuniquê do 20. Esses próximos dias vão ser cruciais para a gente finalizar a construção de uma mensagem clara e robusta que eleve a importância e a potência das cidades no enfrentamento da fome, das desigualdades e dos impactos das mudanças climáticas. Em julho, a gente vai sediar no Rio a primeira reunião de Sherpas do G20, aberta à participação dos grupos de engajamento. Nela, poderemos influenciar diretamente os negociadores do G20, transmitindo a força de nossos compromissos e, principalmente, o nosso pleito por melhores formas de financiamento dos Objetivos de Desenvolvimento Sustentável Urbanos. A gente precisa sempre lembrar que as principais ações de enfrentamento das mudanças climáticas são conduzidas nas cidades, verdadeiros motores do crescimento econômico que representam mais de 80% do PIB global. Precisamos criar mecanismos dentro da governança global que garantam a elas o acesso direto a financiamento internacional. Os municípios dos países em desenvolvimento têm potencial para atrair cerca de 30 bilhões de dólares em investimentos relacionados ao clima até 2030. O G20 é uma oportunidade única para a gente mostrar às maiores lideranças mundiais a importância de uma reforma financeira global. Esse é o momento para a gente propor soluções ousadas e eficazes para combater as mudanças climáticas e a pobreza. Em novembro, a gente vai se reunir novamente no Rio para as cúpulas do 20 e do G20. E sob a liderança do presidente Lula, eu acredito que nós vamos ter muitas conquistas. Desejo aí a todos vocês uma discussão produtiva que certamente vai trazer resultados transformadores para o futuro das cidades. Espero recebê-los em breve. Muito obrigado e tenham uma ótima cúpula.
Nós agradecemos as palavras.
We thank Mayor Mr. Vice represented here by Antonio Mariano. Now we'll hear the words of the Mayor of São Paulo City, Ricardo Nunes.
Mais uma vez, boa tarde a todos.
Good afternoon, everyone. Once again, I'd like to add the greetings to Kevin Austin, the Executive Director of C40, and I also would like to greet everyone here in the inaugural stage of our plenary.
Feliz de
I'm glad
falar do meu grande
to hear the words by the Mayor from Rio de Janeiro, considering that Rio and São Paulo are holding the co-presidency or co-chairmanship of the Urban 20.
queria só fazer uma
Something I'd like to compliment here about my initial remark.
acertadamente, eles com muito foco na questão da segurança
Considering food security and fight against hunger,
inaugural,
in this inaugural session of the Urban 20 Summit, I would like to add and make some contributions too. Climate change issues nowadays, they affect everything in every city throughout the world, especially considering what we're going through in the south of the country, in the state of Rio Grande do Sul, with floodings and many areas that left thousands of people without a home. Considering also what is happening in the region of the Amazon with wildfires. And so many other experiences throughout the world that you're looking at. Climate change issues are of the utmost importance, especially considering the topic we're discussing here, which is fight against hunger and poverty. Actions against climate change have a consequence in the production of food, in migration of peoples,
se faz urgente,
and it's really urgent, especially considering what U20, C40, and it's focusing on this as a social issue. We need to be more nimble in the actions that the cities are taking to face the situation. I want to mention the concrete case here in the city of São Paulo. We are replacing our diesel-fueled buses and replacing them by electric vehicles. We have over 12,000 buses circulating in the city of São Paulo that transport 7 million people in the city. And 64% of the CO2 emission in the city of São Paulo come from vehicles that go around the city, and half of it, and there was this work that was given by C40, and I'd like to thank you for the work, the joint action with the city of São Paulo. We identified the need of the substitute to replace the fleet of buses for the vehicles, the electric buses, to reduce the CO2 emissions. We have been working since 2021, 2, 3, and presenting projects to the World Bank so we could get $500 million, and it's not like a giveaway, it's a loan that is going to be paid back by the town hall and BNDES as well, the State Development Bank of Brazil, but they are there at the National Secretary of the Brazilian Treasury, and we need for it to speed up this process, especially an institution that is concerned with the situation. We should be much more advanced in this area in concerning the substitution of the bus fleet in the city of São Paulo. There's a very important action that the Town Hall of São Paulo is doing. We are renewing the contract for the trash collection or waste collection, and we considered an obligatory aspect to invest 106 billion reais in order to create the eco parks, to give a proper destination to waste, and also replacement of over 500 trucks that collect waste in the city of 12 million people, and the replacement in the period of 24 months to replace them in order to use the methane gas, which is a non-polluting gas that is produced by waste, is caused by waste. So I'd like to finalize my time here saying that I've been going all around the world and I've been taking part of many different meetings on this fundamental topic of sustainability, climate change, and environment. If you pay attention, I've been trying to work very hard on this. There was an invitation that was given to 20 world leaders by the Vatican and the Pope to discuss the topic, which is to propose concrete actions. Everyone here knows really well what they have to do. Everyone knows what is happening. There is a lot of scientific material being published for many different types, and it's very important for all the government leaders to consider in their events to mention what they are doing concretely. I showed in my first participation and contribution one example, and the second one here, this example. And whenever I see someone that talks about ideas and projects, that makes me feel that they are not acting much or they're not making a lot. What Mayor Eduardo Paes showed us in this message, and I'd like to send him my regards in this opportunity, he said, people live in cities. And also my last contribution to finalize my words is to say that we need to strengthen actions. There was a backtrack, actually, when the tax reform was passed, and we needed the municipalities to be stronger, and what happened with the tax reform was that the municipalities were weakened. They had less margin of action. We did try, right? But we did fight bravely. I wanted to name this as an example so that in the next discussions we'll strengthen cities and strengthen municipalities. There where people live, and people need concrete actions in these places in many different regards, and not just the topics that we're debating here in this plenary. Thank you very much.
Agradecemos ao prefeito Ricardo Nunes.
We thank you, Mayor Ricardo Nunes, and all the other members. And before we finalize the official opening, I'd like to ask to the stage the representatives of the Urban 20 so that we can take an official picture. Please, representatives of each one of the cities of Urban 20, please come to the stage so we can take an official picture, and by doing so, we'll have an official registry.